I can hear your dog in the background.
I
Just
don't know whose dog that is, but it won't shut the hell up.
Okay, so for everybody who hasn't been here before and everybody who has, this is my project podcast called I Have Work in the Morning. I wanted to interview my friend Michael Castillo, who has been mentioned in the show before when he talked to Philip. When I talked to Philip, I just wanted to get him on, ask him some questions. I've known him for quite a while, so he's a pretty great guy. Um, and so, Michael, if you could sum yourself up in like so someone's writing a movie about you, all right, and they only have 1 minute to pitch it to the guys who made the Lego movie, what would the pitch be?
First off, if the Lego guys try to make a movie about me, they'll probably just get fired and replaced by Ron Howard.
Exactly.
But the pitch would be this: Imagine a loser. Imagine a loser who uh like sucks at stuff, and then he slowly gets better at a few things, but he's still a loser, and then that's it. It would
Just
be, and I'm pretty sure that's the same pitch that they used for The Big Lebowski. So, I mean, this could be a big hit.
a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Big Lebowski didn't have. I've actually only seen that movie once. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've only seen that movie once. All I know is he drinks the milk. Um, Bug Eyes Man dies. Um, what else
Hey, he has
happens?
a name, dude.
What's his name? Joe John Leguizamo. No, Joe. Come on, I know this. I know this. He's my boy. What's his name? Come on, just don't leave me
You're
hanging.
failing. I'm not helping you. You dug yourself in this hole.
Uh, Joe Pesci. No. Um, I wish I could ask Michael, but he's just gonna ignore me. That's it. I gotta look it up. Bug-eyed actor. Steve Buscemi. There we go. That search actually came up with his name. How sad. Um, yeah, I know Steve Buscemi dies in that movie, and then they like stole like some money from a different Lebowski, right? There's like a name mix-up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's like one of the big things.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't really. Everyone always quotes that movie by being some like super lazy person who's like, "Oh, dude, I'm so cool." Um, okay, so your pitch for your life is that you're the Big Lebowski, but in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you drink as much as he does, or do you drink
I
less, or
wish. He drinks. I think he just drinks White Russians throughout the whole movie.
I,
Like, and I'm pretty sure he like. They never show him smoking weed, but it was like a known fact that he was like a stoner. Oh wait, they do show him smoking. We got to change that back. Uh,
it's just a known fact, huh?
well, because one of the things that they did was that sometimes Jeff Bridges would like rub his eyes to make it look like he had just smoked before going into the scene. So they didn't actually show him smoking weed before he goes to a scene, but it was implied. But there also is like one or two scenes where he's actually smoking weed. So, and no, I don't drink nearly as much as he does or smoke as much weed. So I guess that makes me less cool.
Are you as cool as Jeff Bridges is in real life, though? Wait.
Jeff Jeff Bridges in real life or the Big Lebowski in the movie?
No, just specifically Jeff Bridges.
um, I don't know, man. He seems like a cool guy, but and like he's had like really cool parts in movies, but you never know. Sometimes people like that they seem really cool, but they're like just have no personality. So I don't know.
What's the name? It's what's the name of the actor who looks exactly like him? Like, um, Kurt Kurt Russell, right? Russell Stover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Russell Stover.
he did
Stovetop?
he did Bone Tomahawk, right? Have you seen that movie?
That's the movie that you're gonna quote Kurt Russell being in is
He
Bone
was
Tomahawk.
also in Hateful Eight and
Not even Hateful to like most of his movies that are popular were from back then, like Escape from L.A. or New York.
he doesn't have a
Freaking,
beard in those. Why would I?
he was in Tombstone, right? He had a beard in Tombstone.
He
Wait,
wasn't Tombstone. Was it? He was, right? And then
I think so.
who
Yeah,
who else was in that movie? There's always an actor in that movie that I'm
there's a
like,
bunch. Oh, you know what? I think I might be confusing him with the guy that passed away. Gosh dang it. We're supposed to be cinephiles, dude, and we're just doing a horrible job.
cinephiles. I'm
That's
not.
what
I'm
they
not.
that's what they
I'm
that's
not
what they
cool. I'm not
call
cool
him,
with
dude.
that term, bro. I ain't
You don't
trying to.
identify?
I'm not trying to sleep with no movies.
Nah, dude. That's like a hipster saying he's not a hipster, dude.
Kurt Russell was also in The Thing, or the Russell Stover movie. Okay, so one of the questions, the main question that I wanted to ask you, like I said before, is that something we've never really talked about, even though we've talked about literally everything else, is when you were going to college, you were studying for music, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But I still have no, besides the piano class that you had that one semester that I rode in your car,
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what you learned. So, what is the most important aspects that you've retained from college regarding your like musical? I know you don't play as much anymore or anything, but I know that um
Dude, what are you talking about? I shred all the time.
uh-huh. Not at a church, I mean.
I mean, technically I played last week, so that's true. Well, when I was going to college, I knew I was interested in music, but I obviously didn't know what it's weird when you're interested in something creative or like something to do with the arts because you can be interested in it, but it doesn't always pan out as a career path or it's not always clear. So obviously I knew I had an interest in music. I had background already playing guitar. Um, and I had some in middle school, you know, they'll kind of always make you do band. I think that's how it is for some.
Hmm.
I don't know. But so I learned like trumpet in middle school. I played piano like in second grade. And then picked up guitar when I was 16. Learned some stuff there. And then by the time I got to college, I knew I was interested, but didn't know exactly what. So I kind of just took certain classes on a whim. Um, I think my first classes were a music business class and um, a MIDI class, which is like music files and doing stuff like through Logic or what's the other one?
Uh GarageBand?
GarageBand is one of them, but the other standard is uh, I don't know, but pretty much that it's music sampling, pretty much, and like learning that's what the class was about. Um, so those were pretty cool. Um, the teacher was really cool. It was the same dude that did both of them. Um, music business was more about being an artist or having a band and like kind of the basics of what you would need um, as far as like negotiating contracts, knowing what different jobs are, like what it means to be a producer or a manager or an agent, an A&R guy, stuff like that. How to like what wiggle room you have as a band, signing with indie labels, stuff like that. Really cool stuff. And then MIDI was obviously just working with MIDI files and making music, sampling stuff. Sometimes we were given samples and then we'd have to mix it properly, um, try to set it up into a different song, stuff like that. And then later on, I would do, I think I took like beginner voice, just choir stuff, and then piano, and uh, I had like a year of theory, and then I had like music fundamentals before that. So just learning basic music theory, which musically helped me out a lot, and it applied for a lot of stuff.
Okay.
It's kind of just the ins and out for music.
Yeah, focusing in on that point, I was always interested in you taking music theory because I never fully understood how it would translate fully into when you're playing. Because you like get the chords or the tabs for a song, and you play it. I was wondering how that usually how that would like translate into like your day
Hmm.
to day playing. How did it affect you, I guess?
Hmm. Um, well, so you can learn music without actually learning music theory. So, like what you had said, you can play guitar chords and fill out a song, or you could learn the tabs for a song for like a soloing part or like a guitar riff and learn that and play it in a song, and you'll be completely fine. No theory actually needed. But music theory actually teaches you how that works and why it works and how to do it yourself. So if you're writing a song, you can just throw chords together, but some chords don't really mix well with others or don't sound right put together, and there's a reason for that. Um, so like you might have heard of like a major key or a minor key or having a key in a certain or having a song in a certain key, and that how that all works together. And that's basically what theory is. So you can play a variety of music without learning theory, but if you want to create music or add to music, so like soloing, if obviously you can play a song the way exactly it's supposed to be played, but if you want to mess around and you have some wiggle room, especially as a guitarist, um, you kind of have to know what notes you can play, and theory helps out with that.
Okay, that's I guess that's a good general explanation. Um, what is going back to the uh was a music business that you said? Is that the name of the class?
Hmm.
What is like one of the most important things that you learned in that class regarding like signing for bands and labels and stuff like that? Is that where bands usually, because I know that like for hip hop music or solo artists, usually when you sign is when you make the most money. Is that, do you know if that's how it worked when they're in bands, like group projects, or is it based on your touring then and stuff like that?
Um, I think that's kind of a misconception, and it might have been mostly true back in the day, but it's not so true now. So yeah, usually what you would expect is, oh, well, you're a band for a while, you tour, you're broke, and you're just putting out music and giving labels like your demo and stuff, trying to get signed. And then when you do get signed, you have money, you have their recording studio, and then you can like make a bunch of money and stuff, which is kind of a way you can do it. But the coolest thing about modern music business is that um, you can you can make money, you can make somewhat of a living, you can make a good living if you want, but not if you want, but if it pans out properly, um, like without actually having to sign. And that I think that's why the uh, independent labels or indie artists are really prevalent now, because you can record your own stuff, put it out there, make your own albums and put them up on Spotify, on SoundCloud, and create revenue streams, book your own touring, um, your own put up your own media, your own your social medias, connect to your fans, hook up with someone to do your merch, someone to make T-shirts, and you can be a lot more independent without ever having to do anything with a record label, or even touring if you're able to, if you're able to put your music out there and have it spread out without actually touring anywhere, and have your music be spread through other people, and create different revenue streams. Um, so
So it's kind of like being a mini entrepreneur.
yeah,
That's cool.
exactly.
That's cool.
And from what I was reading a different book about music business, um, about and the way that the guy says it, is that it's like 50% actually making music, and it's 50% the business side of it. Most people want it to be like 90-10, where it's like, well, I just want to focus on my music and I don't want to do the business for it.
Hmm.
But if you're an independent artist, you have to rely on yourself or the music business side of it. If you want to be just an artist, then you have to get signed by a label. But most labels only bring on artists that they feel really confident in, with their music, and that it can make money, that it can turn a profit. But that also means that they have shown previously that they already have a big enough fan base, they already have a big enough audience, and they already have somewhat amount of success already. So best way to do is to do yourself. And I think the numbers, like in that class at the time, the instructor was saying that by the numbers that pretty much, a band or an artist, if you have 10,000 fans, that you can make, you can be sustained. You can have a sustainable income, which pretty much like 10,000 fans that will buy your music, will buy your merch, will go to your shows, like 10,000 devoted fans,
Consistent
and
fans.
yeah, and you can live off of that. Not lavishly, but enough where you don't have to work, I guess a real job.
A 9 to 5 is what they're called.
Yeah, sure, bro, whatever.
Says the guy. You wake up at 4 or 5 or whatever.
Yep.
Um, there was something about bands that Toby was talking about in the BC pod. There's a
Hmm.
recent episode. He was talking about how much work, because he always mentions his song rescue thing. He always mentions
Hmm.
how much work goes into when they record just like one song. And
Hmm.
have you ever had? I know you haven't put out an album with anybody or anything, but in your expertise in the time you playing, because I know you've played for a lot of different bands and stuff for churches. Has there ever been a time where the creative or like the practice part has been like overly stressful to the point that it like you'd cut a song or you'd be like this isn't working, or you guys would come out to yelling? I know that it yeah, obviously like minor versions of that happen, but I guess what's the worst time that you remember that? Besides the time that you guys covered that Hillsong song, of course.
Yeah. um, I think. Well, as far as like sounding the worst, that's one different story. And as far as like tensions, like between people, that's kind of a different one. So which one do you want?
Well, just give me both. Give me them in that order.
So so basically for like, uh I guess this isn't go for everybody, but for a lot of worship teams, they have like one main worship leader. Um And so at this particular moment in time, we had like a guest worship leader come in and lead worship for us. But her style was a lot more different than what we're used to. And not only musically, because her style was more like having to do with hymns and our style was more of newer age worship music, where it's like full band incorporated, more less traditional and more modern music styles. But leadership wise, it was different too, because she's used to having her team know exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to sound. And she wasn't used to musically directing people. So musically, so like, and this happens too, where there'll be a worship leader and a music director. So a worship leader usually picks up songs, kind of sets the mood, kind of gives a general direction of what they want. The music director, on the other hand, is more musically in tuned and has a better grasp of music ideas and in how to get there. So the drums need to play this, the guitar needs to play this, the piano needs to play this, and they have musically a better background of how to connect it and how to make it work, instead of just saying, well, I want it to sound bigger here, or I want it to sound, softer here, which are kind of general terms
Yeah,
that
vague.
some worship leaders, yeah, kind of vague terms like that. So in this particular instance, we had a worship leader that had a completely different style, a completely different set of music songs the songs we've never heard of, songs we weren't used to playing, and there was no direction musically of how it should sound, where we're picking up. It was just like, all right, so we're gonna do this song, let's go into it, and then we're trying to practice a song that we've never heard before. And especially from a drummer's perspective, um it's you're trying to figure out the beat, you're trying to figure out the timing, you're trying to figure out if it's supposed to sound the dynamics, if it's supposed to sound soft or it's supposed to sound picked up. And if you don't get that, if you don't know the song, and if your director is not really telling you anything, then it's literally just trying to make it up as you go along, or trying to figure out what it is that he or she wants. And so in this instance, it happened where she was just like, all right, let's just go into this, and everyone's just confused, and we're having to ask, well, what is it that you want? How do you want to sound? What do and she would have these vague terms that meant practically nothing, that were just as confusing. um and so, yeah, it was a pretty particular aggravating situation,
That's
and
the
that occurs many times. It occurred many times.
it's it's hard not because I know who you're talking about. It's hard to not say names. That's always the worst part about this. Uh,
I mean, there's no point in saying names. No one really knows her, so, but
yeah,
it's
true.
just, it's
What's
just, it's podcast etiquette, dude.
what's the second one? The tensions, the coming to blows.
The tensions is always fun. Uh, and I think it happens because it's different if you're on a team that you're not particularly close to the individuals. Um, well, I guess that doesn't matter, because I've had some pretty rough worship leaders. But as far as the previous worship team that, like, I was on with everybody um, at the old church, we were all really close to each other. We all knew each other really well. We were all friends outside of the church, and so, like, for me, I'll just use me, like, as a bad guy in the situation, which happened a lot. So it's not like it's some hypothetical, but like a lot of times, a lot of times I like come home from like a long day at work, just grumpy and upset in the middle of summer when it's all freaking hot, um, and playing songs that or practicing songs that we've kind of already played before, or songs that I'm kind of bored with, or songs that I don't like, and I'll give attitude. And um, sometimes, like, I might not have my part down at that particular practice, and so I can't really try. I mean, I can try, but if I don't have the time, if I don't have the part ahead of time before practice, then it's kind of a waste of time to be like, all right, let's everyone stop while I figure out my part. So sometimes that's the case. Or sometimes other band members don't have their part down, and that can be frustrating. Um, but as far as a particular instance, um, nothing nothing really comes to mind. But it's just a lot of like, dude, stop being lazy, dude. Uh, you're stupid. No, you're stupid. No, this song is stupid. Obviously, not with
Um,
that level of apathy, a little bit more higher, but you get the point.
um, that reminds me, Thomas. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, Thomas. I have already said his name. Thomas told me the story of you guys were on the worship team you were most recently on,
Yeah,
and then one of
yeah.
the
I
band
was gonna
members
mention this.
kept saying like, "Oh my god, the guitar sounds terrible" or whatever it was, and you're just playing the guitar just normal.
Yeah, that team was fun because there was always something. So yeah, there was that time where she was like, "There's something sounds wrong. Is there feedback or something?" And everyone's like, "No, we don't hear anything." She's like, "There's like this high pitched ringing," and I'm like, Is it me? Is it my guitar?" And she goes, "Yeah, is there something wrong with your guitar?" And I'm like, "No, that's just how I play." Like I didn't know what to tell her. There's stuff like that, and
She
recently, um, we have what I like to call monitor divas, where like a worship leader or someone on the team is really particular about the mix that they get from their monitor, and instead of like moving practice on, which in like when you're doing Sunday morning worship practices, like right before service, there's a limited amount of time that you have to get through the songs. So if you have new songs, you want to get through them, but sometimes you have people that are kind of practice because, oh well, can I get more of this instrument, or can I get less of this and more of this, and kind of just stopping and going and constantly doing that throughout practices. And it's like, dude, we don't have time for this. Like if you can hear yourself, fine, let's move on. And just stuff like that. Or, well, oh, this instrument doesn't sound this way, and maybe we should make it sound this way, and like kind of going back and forth. So we have instances with that. um there was another time where um we were kind of doing that. Someone was kind of being a monitor diva, and the worship leader was trying to get through the song, and the songs weren't coming out good. They didn't sound good. The mix didn't sound good. They were newer songs, so the worship leader was kind of back and forth of whether or not to stay with the song list or to change the song list or to change the key on the songs that were on. And um, the monitor diva was being a diva and like, oh, can I get more of this and this and that? And the worship leader kind of snapped at her and was like, hey, you need to leave the mix alone. We need to get through these songs, kind of being straightforward with her, but a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit too harsh, but whatever. That's it. Different people have different tolerances. And so she just kind of clammed up and didn't say nothing, and then we kind of went through practice. And then I, so you could feel the tension with the team, and me and Thomas were playing, and we were just kind of giving each other looks and trying to figure out what's going on. And we turn and look, and she's like crying.
Oh my
She's like
god.
crying in the middle of the song. And so the worship leader has to stop, and he's like comforting her and talking to her. He's like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, this and that, and was just like giving her a hug and stuff. And it's like in the middle of practice, and we have like 15 minutes to finish before we have to, move on. So stuff like that happens when
That
you're under.
reminds that reminds me of one time when I was doing soundboard
Mhm.
for I honestly don't remember who it was, but they had a guest band come to the church, and it was like a while ago. There was an incident where they were like, "Where are the batteries? Did someone steal the batteries?" And I didn't care. That's not the point of the story, but I remember that was the same time. And some guy was like, I'm just gonna go up there and I'm gonna fix the mix. And I was like, oh, okay, there's something wrong with my mix. I mean, I guess you could come up here. And he comes up there and he like selects an instrument. I don't let's just say he selects the guitar, right? And he turns the main for the guitar down and then turns the slider for that same guitar, like the bass slider, up. So it netted absolutely no difference in volume or pitch or anything. He just basically changed it to where the main volume was lower, but the output volume of the speakers was louder. But that just basically meant it was going to sound the exact same. And he's like, this is so much better. And then he goes back on stage, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what your problem is, but what you did accomplished nothing. Literally nothing. You've wasted my time, you've wasted your team's time, and there's people coming in. That's
Yep,
probably
that
the
happens.
that's probably the dumbest situation I've ever had running sound. The most common one obviously is just like, get out of the way, I'll fix it, and then they barely do anything, and then they're like, oh, this is so much better. And
Or they come in and make it a lot
oh,
worse.
they're like that's it.
Obviously worse.
Let me do it, and then it sounds like some like 12-year-old who just learned what like speakers were is like making a mix, and you're so bad, so bad. Um,
Yeah.
what is the so we've both obviously been to a lot of different locations for ministry and stuff. What is the worst place you've ever had to play, uh, like as a band at?
That one recently where we went to Magic, wasn't Magic Mouse, SeaWorld. Uh, did you want me to tell that story?
Yeah,
I guess it wasn't like the worst experience, but it definitely was the worst um I've ever sounded, or we as a team ever sounded. So basically we got an opportunity to play at, it's Six Flags, but not Six Flags Magic Mountain. It's Six
Marine
Flags.
World.
Is it Marine World?
Yeah.
Which used to be Sea World, but now it's just owned differently. So we got an opportunity to play there. They're having like a Christian day or Christian night or whatever.
A Christian
Uh,
day, the day of the
that's what it
Christian,
was.
day
I
of the
kid you not,
Christians.
that's what it was. They invite like all the churches and youth groups to go for that particular day, give them a discount, whatever. And so they have performances, different Christian bands play, different worship teams play. And so they asked our youth group to play a worship set, and all the people that were involved with the worship with the youth worship team were on the Sunday morning worship team. So the more experienced musicians, and so we thought, well, let's just play a few songs to open up for them, kind of get a crowd in, just to play, whatever, just to play. So we have, it's a Hillsong song that has, well, a lot of the newer Hillsong songs, a lot of synth and background pads, and a lot of stuff in the background for the music, and it kind of it helps. It helps because that's mostly like synth stuff. So we got a hold of that track, and we were gonna play with that track along with our with live instruments. And so we had played it before a couple times before, and it worked out fine as long as we're on time with the track. Everything pans out fine. So it's not an issue. In the bag, experienced musicians, we know what we're doing. We're set. We're good. So we go. We set up. We're ready to go. One of our sound technicians, who is also a DJ, decides he wants to be on stage with us and sets up his turntables. And so we had no idea. It was completely unbeknownst to us, but we were right there when we were setting up. So we couldn't just tell them, we had to go on with the show. We didn't have really time to discuss it. We went right into it. So we play this song, and for some reason everybody sounds off. Everybody sounds out of key. And there's a couple times where everything goes timing wise off. and it shouldn't, because our drummer has the track in her headphones, and she's usually pretty good about keeping timing. But we don't understand what happened. Everything, and it just sounds absolutely horrible. Um, so we don't understand. We just feel awful because it was the worst that any of us had ever sounded in a long, long time. A very humbling experience. So we hang our heads in shame. We tear down our stuff. We let the youth team play, and they do an awesome job. And we take our gear and we start heading back to load it back on our vehicles. And on the way, we realized what had happened was that because the track was running through um, the sound technician's turntables, he was changing the mix on everything. So when you scratch a record or use a turntable, it messes with the timing. You have levels so that it messes with the key, and it pretty much just change it. Like if you're just playing around with the record, if imagine if you're listening to a record, as soon as you start scratching it or messing with the levels on it, it's gonna sound different. And so we needed this track to sound on the right key and to have the right timing. And because he was kind of scratching and doing his little thing in the background, it threw everybody off. And the whole song sounded in a different key because he was playing with his levels to make it sound cool. And it completely threw everyone off. It messed everything up. And it wasn't until after everything was done and over with that we realized what had happened. And
This
yeah,
is
that was
the Hillsong song, the Real Love one, right?
yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me, for some reason, this reminded me of a memory 2 years ago when we went to Arizona. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. We went to Arizona, and I forgot the CD that we needed for our tracks in my car in California. And we were already in Arizona by the time we had realized this. And you were upset at me, rightfully so. And you were like, the version of this Kelly Clarkson song isn't going to work. And I was like, I'll see what I can do. So I text my friend who makes music, and he's like, I'm like, can you edit this song to be like this version, and can you upload it to SoundCloud, but like privated? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then he texted me like an hour later, and he's like, dude, the second I uploaded it to SoundCloud, they locked my account. I got like a copyright claim. And I was like, Michael, I'm so sorry. We're gonna have to use the normal version of the song. And then it threw everybody off, of course, because they're not used to the normal version. And I just felt so stupid. And I get back, we get back to California, and I see the CD in my car, and I just break it because I'm just so mad. I'm just so mad.
Yeah,
As
that's
a
happened.
as a cinephile, as you said, obviously you and I like movies, and I'm pretty sure I know what your favorite movie is. But
No, you
okay,
don't.
what's your favorite movie then?
I don't have a favorite movie, man.
Okay, so why is Scott Pilgrim versus the World your
Oh
favorite movie?
my god. All right. First off, let me talk about this favorites thing. So I have people ask, like, just in general. I don't like picking the favorite. I
you
don't
don't you
like
don't got a top
picking.
five? Because I got a top five.
I think I have. I don't really. I don't really categorize it like that. Like I can. I can think of like five movies I really really like,
All right, go five
but
movies.
Jiminy Crickets.
That's not a movie.
He's a character in the movie.
What movie is he in? Is it
Um,
Dumbo? No, it's
no,
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio. Pinocchio. Um, see this. Okay, this is why I don't like it, because I like a lot of movies a lot, but for a lot of different reasons. So I can like think of it as genre too. Like maybe I could think of like five comedies or five action movies or five uh I don't know, thrillers or horror movies. But it's weird to compare like a horror movie that I really really like with a comedy that I really really like, and then being like, well, which one do I like more? Like I don't like doing that. So I don't like having my top 5, my top 10, or categorizing even just one. Like this is my favorite movie of all time, um, because I like different genres for different reasons, and I feel the same way about television shows or music or just anything that food. Like, how are you gonna compare like sushi with like steak? Like they're both really good, but I like them for different reasons, and I don't feel like I should have to choose one over the other.
Dude, you're whack. You're whack. In a life or death situation, if someone was like, choose your favorite something, you're telling me that you couldn't give an answer.
All right, I'll give you some that I like, uh, but in no particular order. Um, what's that movie? So Whiplash,
That's a good movie.
uh, Mad Max Fury Road,
That's a good movie.
Scott Pilgrim.
That's a okay
Um,
movie.
you're just a hater
Are you see?
because
Are you? Did you see what what Jacob posted in chat? He said
no.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World was the gayest shit in the world. Literally cringed myself out of reality, but the Xbox Live arcade game was alright.
He's right about the Xbox arcade game.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World, bro. This is your jam. This is your movie.
This is the meme movie for me. Okay, but let me tell you why I like it, and I
Yeah.
don't
Okay,
like.
defend Scott Pilgrim versus the World to
Okay,
me, someone who's seen
so
the movie
first
5 times for some reason.
first off, one of the biggest strengths is editing. So Edgar Wright, who did the movie, who did Baby Driver, who did um, is it what's the zombie movie? Shaun
Shaun
of
of
the
the
Dead,
Dead,
Shaun of the Dead.
Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, a lot of Simon Pegg movies. His editing style is very his. He has a great style. It's very stylized. Um, the transitions, the um, the animations, the way he moves from scene to scene, the visual comedy that he has in his style. So in Scott Pilgrim, it works perfectly well with his already style because Scott Pilgrim was kind of was based off of the graphic novel, and it has a comic book slash video game kind of feel to it, sense to it throughout all the editing. So if you took out all the dialogue, the joke, and the story, the editing itself is really cool. It's really unique. It's really fun. I really like it. I enjoy that part of it. Um, and I think it has amazing music. A lot of the music that they did was original. I think even Michael Cera like learned bass for the songs.
For the 2 songs.
For the 2 songs they had. Um, I think the music is awesome. Uh, it's kind of punky but poppy, but kind of has that garage band feeling to it. Not the program, but the actual genre type, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny. It has good. I mean, Michael Cera's Michael Cera. You can like his acting or not. He kind of is like a one shade type of character. So if you don't like him, well, because he's not really. I mean, he's done other stuff that's different, but what he's most known for is his character type, which is fine. And if you don't like that, that's fine too. Whatever. But I think I don't know. I think most people put it off because they consider it too hipster, or just the style of everybody in there is too trendy or poppy or trying too hard, or I don't know. I don't care. What are your qualms? I've given my defense for it. What are your
All right,
qualms?
you had me with the editing. You're right.
Mhm.
That movie is edited extremely well. And you
Mhm.
are right that Michael Cera is a character actor.
Yeah. I mean, people get typecast. That's just
it
how it is.
it's just so like everything is so over the top, like with the acting and the lines and the stuff that people do, that and the way that the characters act just in general, is just
Mm-hmm.
so over the top that it like Jacob said, it's not cringy, but it's like on the border. It makes me like uncomfortable. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I get it. She's a lesbian. We don't gotta make 50 jokes about it. I get it. He's Captain America. Actually, that character was kind of cool. I get it. He's a vegan. Vegans are dumb. Haha. That, well, in this sense, in this movie, like it's just,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just like the jokes. They've made a joke, and then they just keep making the same joke in different words over and over again. But it's in a movie instead of like in a lifetime where you can recycle a joke. So I don't know. The movie's okay. It's just I don't think it's something that could be like of my favorite movie ever, like even close. You know what Michael Cera movie I haven't ever seen?
What's that?
Is it Knocked Up? Was he in that movie?
um.
What's a movie he got a girl pregnant, but it wasn't Juno.
Oh, Juno.
It wasn't Juno. I've seen Juno. It's
Mm,
got that blonde chick in it. Um, you know,
I think I can. Oh well, while you look that up, I can see where you're coming from as far as it being over the top. Well, for one, it's in. It's based off of a graphic novel. It's based off a comic book, which most comic books are over the top. And that particular comic book is the same way, where it's stylized to be kind of over the top and crazy, where it's like we're in a normal world, but for some reason we can all fight and have crazy power action moves, and each character is kind of um, over the top with the characterizations. The mean girl is really mean. The sarcastic guy is really sarcastic. Um, whatever. But I don't. I. You can obviously have an opinion of just like, well, I don't like that, which is fine. But if it's an adaptation of a graphic novel, it's like that's just you just so you want to tone it down and make it dumb. And I think that's what's hard with making like anime movies or like live action adaptations of anime, because anime is so stylized and so like over the top a lot of the times that when you try to translate it into real life, it doesn't translate well. It looks weird, it feels weird, it feels over the top, and it's not especially if you take yourself too it just comes off as dumb. Um and I think they I think it being a comedy, it kind of played well. It seemed like uh, a type of world that is obviously over the top, but still believable, I guess. Um, I don't know.
okay.
I'm not saying it's obvious. It's serious or uh, Oscar worthy. It's just fun.
I can see your points. All right, I can see them off in the distance, and I respect them. But it
But
just,
they're wrong.
but it just ain't. It just ain't for me, man. It just ain't for me. That movie was cool when I was like, what was I like 14 when that movie came out? Like, it was cool then.
All right, that's
It was
cool.
like
I
super
mean,
bad. Did you? I
I
looked up
was
that I am.
if you were 14, I was 16, 17. So I mean, all right, it's a movie from our past that I still like. There's you know guys in their 40s that really like Gremlins, but Gremlins has its flaws and it can be stupid. There's the whole freaking Gremlin rules about not eating stuff after midnight. There's obviously some flaws in there, but you like the movie regardless. It's just all right.
Dude, wouldn't 8 a.m. be after midnight? Of
Exactly, and it's always after midnight somewhere. It is the are the Gremlins, if they're on the Pacific West, do they do they have to
what
sync up their time? What's
what
going
time zone is the Gremlins ability tied to? Um I looked up the Wikipedia page for Michael Cera, and dude, he's been like in barely anything since like Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist.
Oh, was that the movie you were thinking of?
No, it wasn't it. I don't know what movie he was in. It was with like Catherine. Who's the chick that gets
No,
pregnant and knocked up?
no. You're thinking of Knocked, but he wasn't in Knocked Up. That was a deleted scene. I don't even think it was a real scene. It was because it was a popular like a video of him
Yeah,
freaking
yeah, the
out
one of
on
him freaking
set
out,
of
right?
Knocked Up. Yeah,
That's
but
it. So it is Knocked Up. I did identify that as the
yeah,
correct movie. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
but I think that was like faked or something. It was something he was doing just as like a practical thing where he was trying to personify himself as this self-righteous actor or something. Or maybe he really is. I don't know. But yeah, that was the thing where it was like, well, we have to get someone else, so we got Seth Rogen.
That's like his
And like,
thing in This Is the End.
yeah, yeah. They make him out to be like
Full of himself.
crazy. Yeah.
Um, Castillo, I know everyone's dying to hear this answer, and so am I. Um, give me, after all these years of our discussion, all right, your definitive in order list of Quentin Tarantino movies.
From like best to worst.
Yes. Worst to best.
Mm. You already know my worst.
It's Jackie Brown, but go on
It's
after.
Jackie Brown. All right, so I only watched this movie once, a couple of years ago. It was like 5 years ago.
What, Jackie Brown?
Yeah, Jackie Brown. And it's kind of long and it's kind of boring, and the story was kind of hard to follow. And I was expecting it to be more uh, Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction, where it's just over the top action, violence, blood, gore, whatever. And it wasn't that. But I know a lot of people like Jackie Brown for that reason, that it's a movie that is taken more seriously. And it does get interesting. I can't remember the full story, but I remember they kind of have a plan to do something, and then that plan starts slowly unfolding, and they kind of have to recalibrate and work it and stuff. But
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but it had to do with Robert De Niro. They were going to steal something from the mall, right?
yeah, I can barely remember. I need to rewatch it.
What if you
Um,
like it more? This
I
can't be
might
the.
I might like it more, but I just remember at the time of watching it, I was like, oh my god, it's so boring. Like nothing's happening. What's going on? And like I didn't really care because sometimes you have to be invested in the character, and I just wasn't invested in the character. There wasn't anything that I didn't particularly like,
You weren't
but I just
into
didn't care.
bald Samuel L. Jackson?
No, I'm always into Samuel Jackson,
All right.
especially bald Samuel Jackson.
Next movie. What's the next on your list?
um, Death Proof. Maybe that should be the worst. I haven't. It's
It's pretty bad.
yeah. I'm not a big fan of it, but I haven't really watched it that much either. Death. What's the other one too? Planet Terror. I don't know if Tarantino's a producer or if he's actually the director of that one. Because I know it was kind of a project
Pretty sure
between
he's
him
not the.
and
Pretty sure he's not the director of the second half.
yeah. What's his name? Rodriguez? Is it? It's
Uh,
not
Robert Rodriguez, right?
Robert Rodriguez. Yeah.
Isn't that the Dawn of the Dead guy?
Yeah. No, not is it? No, it's not Dawn of the Dead. It's the one. Is it called Dawn of the Dead? The one where they go to the.
The Mall is Dawn of the Dead.
Oh no! The one they go with Quentin Tarantino and
That's from
George
Dusk Till
Clooney.
Dawn.
Yeah, there you go, from Dusk Till Dawn.
That
Dude,
is
Robert
Robert
Rodriguez
Rodriguez.
also did Spy Kids
He did do Spy Kids.
and
Spy Kids 2.
Machete.
Machete.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan so much of the Grindhouse movies or Jackie Brown. As far as that, dude, I don't know because I love all those other Tarantino movies. Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill 1 and 2. Django Unchained, Hateful Eight, Reservoir Dogs,
I'm finding
Inglourious
out.
Basterds.
I'm finding a lot of people aren't liking Hateful Eight as time has gone on.
Hmm. I think, yeah, I can see that too because it's not. It's really story based,
It's like
and
7 hours or something. I started watching that movie at like 10, and then I left and the sun was up. I was like, ugh, what?
yeah,
And then
it's kind of slow if you're expecting a bunch of gunfight, and um, so if that's what you like, I guess that's kind of the criticism I had with Jackie Brown. Uh, I don't know. I liked Hateful Eight.
I liked it
Mm.
too. Something I really, really liked about it. I don't know if a lot of other people cared about this, but I really liked the fact that it took actors who were typecasted and made them play characters that weren't really them. Um, example would be spoilers to anybody who hasn't seen Hateful Eight. Um, what's that guy's name? He's pretty famous. The My Name is Jeff guy.
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, Channing Tatum. Channing
I,
Tatum did a pretty good job in that movie.
what do you mean he
Um,
did a good job? He was hardly in it.
well, yeah, but he's the bad guy at the very end. You didn't like
Alright.
Channing Tatum's performance in that movie, is what you're telling me?
I just don't think it
Huh?
was an outstanding performance because what you said is that you like that it didn't typecast people into their normal characters, but
Yeah,
I would argue
He
that
didn't play some meathead who like works out all the
yeah,
time.
but I would argue that Kurt Russell was kind of a Kurt Russell character. Samuel Jackson was kind of a Samuel Jackson character. The German guy, I don't know his name, but he was in Reservoir
He
Dogs.
was in Reservoir Dogs, and no,
Yeah,
that is
he
definitely not the type of character he usually plays.
not in Reservoir Dogs, but I've seen him play a foreign character similar to that. And actually, it reminded me a lot of Christoph Waltz character in Django Unchained.
I don't know why I thought
Um,
you were gonna say that. I thought in my mind right now I was like he's gonna mention Christoph Waltz in Django.
well, they're both like charismatic, and I think, and technically, they're both European.
Technically, they're both
They both
liars.
they're both from the same time period. It just seemed like that part was maybe for Christoph Waltz, and they gave it to the other guy. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But they have some similarities there. Who else? I forget the chick's name, but she can't really be considered typecast. The main girl,
Yeah, I forget her name too.
Daisy Damagoo.
My God.
Uh, she hasn't been in a lot of movies. I know she Fast Times at Ridgemont High, so can't really say that she has a certain stigma or typecast. The Mexican guy plays the Mexican guy like a
Dude,
Mexican
he's
guy,
not
a
even
little too
Mexican.
Mexican.
He's
He
not even
is
Mexican.
the actor.
I'm pretty sure he isn't.
Oh, he might not be, but he was playing a Mexican,
All right,
like a
dude.
stereotypical Mexican.
Fine. You countered my point. I just felt like Channing
But
Tatum's.
yeah, I'll give you that with Channing Tatum because um his acting wasn't typecast as like 21 Drum Street, so
What is the
cool.
best
Or Magic Mike,
Channing Tatum movie?
Hateful Eight.
Okay, disregarding that one.
Let's see. He was in 21 Drum Street. He was technically in This Is the End. I haven't seen Magic Mike or
He was
Magic Mike.
technically. I forgot about the fact that he was in that. That's a movie that typecasts him differently.
Yeah, that's that one pushed boundaries with the character. Um,
With the Channing Tatum lore.
he was in Step Up. He was in the original Step Up, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
He was G.I. Joe in the G.I. Joe reboot.
yeah,
Um yeah, it's probably Hateful Eight. or the first 21 Jump Street movie.
yeah. 21 Jump Street was pretty funny, and it was like, I think, because it's crazy, like how they kept like for a while Hollywood was doing a lot of movies based on like old TV shows that no one gave a crap about anymore.
I don't know
Like
why they
think
were
of
doing that. Why were they doing that trend?
because they thought it would make money, or that it's and technically it's not over. They just did Baywatch last year. I think that movie bombed, but
Wow, dude, The Rock would disagree.
probably. But I mean, he's. I feel kind of bad. I don't feel bad for The Rock because he's The Rock, but it's like, why are you just taking any movie now? Like Rampage was horrible.
Dude,
He's doing
Rampage was horrible. I haven't seen it yet.
well,
Not
spoiler
going
alert, it's
to.
horrible. I went to go see it. I saw it, but like knowing that it was gonna suck, so I enjoyed it because it sucked.
Like it's so bad it's
But
good.
but he's doing like the skyscraper movie. It feels like a weird hump where like he first started off with like what the Scorpion King, which I really liked as a teenager, but obviously it's a stupid movie. So
Was
it's
that
like he
really
started
his
off.
first movie? No, there's
I
no
think
way.
so.
No,
I
he
think
was in was it Biodome that he was in? No, he was in some movie where he played an American gladiator. Let me pull this up. Let me pull up the
But he wasn't the starring role or had a main role, right? This Scorpion King, I'm pretty sure, was his first main role.
we'll
But
figure this out right
go,
now.
you can continue researching while I explain my point,
The
which is
Rock.
he's kind of have this. He has this bell curve where it's like he started off with really bad movies and then slowly got good, and the movies got good, and then it seems to be kind of tolling off now, where it hit its peak and now it's kind of going down. Because he started with like Scorpion King, which sucked, but I liked as a kid. Whatever, I think we all kind of did. And then like the Rundown was like a better movie. It was fun. Um, Walking Tall kind of sucked, but then he kind of went to oh, I forgot about Doom. He was in Doom. That movie sucked too. Um,
That movie
but like,
sucked too.
but like, Fast and Furious. I guess that whole series would be like his peak, and he kind of did bad movies in between. He did the ones with Kevin Hart. Man, those movies sucked. Central Intelligence sucked. Uh, yeah, Jumanji was better than I expected, so I like that. But yeah, Rampage sucked, and Skyscraper looks stupid, and it just seems like he's kind of taking on. He's probably getting paid really, really well, and that's why. But
He is The Rock.
yeah, but I
Um,
feel like he needs to be more selective. I think he has enough money. I think he needs to pick better movies to be in and not just take whatever comes up. But I'm not his agent, so
oh,
whatever.
for the record, his first acting in a movie was a documentary about wrestling, and his first acting in a movie that wasn't a documentary was in The Mummy Returns, where he's the Scorpion CGI. But his
I
first acting on TV was he played himself in that 70s show, and then he played a
whoa
gladiator
whoa
in
whoa.
Star Trek.
Okay, pause the brakes here for a second.
Pause the brakes.
I don't think he can play himself in that '70s show
No,
because it's a
sorry. It's a wrestler called Rocky Johnson. My bad. All right.
okay. Continuing on.
And then he was in Corey in the House.
Wait. So you said that his first acting uh, in an actual movie was playing the CGI in The Mummy,
Yeah,
but
mocapping the CGI.
I thought the Scorpion King was before
No, it's
the
not.
CGI.
It's after.
Are you sure?
I'm almost 900% sure. It's on this Wikipedia page right now.
Why? That doesn't make any
Well,
sense to
it does
me.
make sense because in the Mummy Returns, he's like, "I've summoned this big old piece of shit," and then he's like, "Oh!" And then the scorpion comes out, and he's like, "This is the worst CGI you've ever seen." And then he dies or whatever, and then you're like, "Wow, I wonder the story behind that big old scorpion." And then The Rock is like, "Well, we're gonna make a movie about it 3 years from now." And then you watch it, and you're like, "Wow, this movie was really edgy."
Hmm.
That's just the way it had to line up.
Interesting. I think I never saw the Mummy movie or until like way later, so I just assumed that um it was kind of already known that the Scorpion King was a part of the lore, but that his CGI character wasn't shown until later.
No, it's
Because I
opposite.
mean, why? That's astonishing because it's crazy to see that the worst CGI monster ever, and then be like, hey, let's make a whole movie about that guy. Like, how did that happen? But I
They were like,
guess
we
it
need to
happened.
get The Rock's abs on film ASAP before he loses them. His arms are so big; they're like the size of Kevin Hart's career. It's crazy.
that it kind of sucks because I think I'm not a huge fan of Kevin Hart, but his
You aren't?
comedy, his comedy, some of his comedy stuff is pretty good. I like, but I like his comedy way more than his movies. And it's weird that some of that doesn't transfer. There's sometimes where there's comedians that have a really good comic career and they're really funny as a comic, but when they switch over to like an actual movie, like their movies suck, and it's really strange. Where it's like, do you not know you're funny? Like what happened?
It used to happen the exact opposite. Like when I was younger, I just thought Eddie Murphy was an actor. I didn't think Eddie Murphy was a comedian.
Yeah, that's true.
Same thing with
But
Chris Rock.
yeah. hmm And Chris Rock really hasn't been in anything good as far as a movie. I He was in a movie called Down to Earth that I really like, but
Chris Rock
I've
wasn't in
never
anything good. Wasn't he
what
in? Shoot,
what movie was he in?
he had to have been in some. There had to have been
He's
something.
had a lot of small roles, but I can't really think of any ones where he was
Grown
like
ups.
had. Oh my god,
Dude,
he's in that
remember?
Netflix movie too
Do you
with Adam Sandler.
do you remember that that college course I had to take where I had to do like an analysis on a movie with some group, and the movie that they chose because I missed school that day was to do like Grown Ups and like the family dynamic, and I had to watch Grown Ups and do a report on it. I was so mad. That movie sucked. He was in oh geez, he is barely Beverly Hills Ninja, Doctor Doolittle, Lethal Weapon.
He was in Doctor Doolittle.
Yeah, he was the voice of some.
Oh,
He was in AI. Osmosis. Oh, he was Osmosis Jones. There we
Osmosis
go. That's
Jones.
probably it.
Yeah, yeah. He was in a movie. He starred in a movie, Down to Earth. It's a dumb movie, but I used to love it as a kid,
I don't see it
and
on here.
I used to quote it all the time from my mom. The premise was he was a struggling comic, and he died, but he wasn't supposed to die. So,
Oh, I think I've seen this poster before.
this angel kind of gives him a second body, but his second body is like this really old rich dude, and so he's trying to get with his and take off his I don't know if he's working on his comedy. He's trying to get this girl to fall in love with him even though he's this old white dude. And that's kind of the joke throughout the whole movie, and he's trying to make it work. Um yeah, it's
Have you
I liked it.
seen is it called After Earth, that Will Smith movie?
Yeah. I That's the name of the movie, but I have not.
You've not seen it.
Mm-mm.
You shouldn't. Don't ever watch it. Pretty awful.
Dude, Will Smith's making a comeback, dude. He's got a
I
crazy old
swear,
diss
if you talk
track.
about his YouTube channel, you're so.
He's like sporting his son stuff too. He's on it.
God.
I
Dude,
can't wait
I
till we
wish I was
get.
Jaden Smith. Just allowed to be like infinitely creative.
Yeah, that's the word.
Are you? Well, I mean, it is. Even if you don't like the music, that's what he's doing.
Is There's a fine line between creativity and
Oh, sorry. Were you talking?
exactly.
Um, you hear any news about this new Emery album?
Yeah, actually, I went to a show last, and and they played
Oh,
a
you
new
went last
song.
night? That's what I should ask you about. How did the show go last night?
It was good. It took a while. I'm in uh, Santa Paula. I'm in Fillmore, and I had to drive to Pomona, which is usually like an hour and a half away, but it took longer. I missed the two opening bands, but who cares about those guys? I saw the opener band before Emery. They were weird, but kind of cool in their own way. But yeah, Emery was a good show. There was a lot of people there. It was at the Glass House. Um, they played all the good songs. Devin was there, and then they were like, "Hey, we have a new." And this, it's kind of weird because obviously going to a concert is its whole experience. Um, and it's usually pretty fun, but there's some drawbacks because there's a lot of people. It always gets freaking hot,
Of
and
course.
live, the sound live always sounds off.
It's always
You know what I
worse.
mean? Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it's because they don't have someone that I heard someone explaining this today. Actually, it's because
Mhm.
they don't. They like record a song, right? They're like, okay, cool, we're done. We got this. We got the song done. And then they're like, all right, genius guy, can you mix this? Like, can you spend like an 8 hours a day mixing these songs to sound perfect? And then when they play them live, it's just what they did the first time. There's no guy they're like, oh yeah, let me tune this down so that way everything's the same exact level when it enters the listener's ears. It's like it's mixing is hard, and so like you can't do it live. And so when they play live, of course it's gonna sound, you know, worse, different, louder, and some parts weirder.
I think the only way that you can um, subvert that is if you're doing something different in your live shows. So, what a lot of bands do is that they incorporate visuals, videos, um, random. I mean, like pop stars do like dancing, and it's more of a show and less of a performance. Um, and so that I think that helps as far as um, the experience of going to a concert or going to a show. Um, but yeah, definitely the mix sounds different. Like, and it matters too because the guy that's operating the sound is operating from what he hears from his position, which is usually in the back of the venue. So depending on where you stand, you can get a completely different sound from the band. If you're standing in front of some of their amps, you're going to get obviously that sound more than what you would if you're just getting them straight from the speakers. If you're in different speakers or in front of like bass, I'm sorry, what am I thinking of? It's like a sub.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a completely different sound. So yeah, it's 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 difficult because it always sounds off. But I think the concert experience isn't you're not going because you want to hear the song sound the same as if it was from the album, because otherwise you would just be at home listening to the album. It's just fun being around a bunch of people who like the same band. You guys are singing all the songs.
You guys are all
You're dancing
sweating,
together, or yeah, you're getting sweaty
getting
together. You're dancing
ringworm.
together. You're pushing each other. You're moshing together. You're screaming at each other.
Do you
You're
happen
doing
to?
stage dives and being annoying with crowd surfing, overpaying for water and whatever.
Is the name of the new song Thrash?
No, Thrash
Or
is
is Thrash
off
an
their
old song, right?
no, well, it's off their new album. Well, not it's off their last album.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I asked because my Spotify was shuffle randoming Emery songs and it said Thrash for a second and then it had no album name and then just skipped the song and I was like, was that a song off the new album?
No, that's off their last release. I
So
don't think they've released their new song yet. And they didn't say the name of it. Um, but it sounded good. This particular song sounded like it was more Devin written, or more of Devin's influence. So he's been coming from his solo thing, which was more kind of like R&B and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, a weird.
Well, Devin's
His
back in the
music was
band
different.
now.
Yeah. So this one sounded like a Devin song. But it sounded good. It didn't sound.
All right, dude. How mad? How mad would you be? They announced the name of the new album, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Question 2.
That'd be tight. I'd be down for it.
That'd be so weird. That'd be whack.
Dude, speaking of the question, um, so
My phone thing went off in a place that it shouldn't have.
no, it's so funny, dude. Every time they get to listening to Freddie Mercury and it gets to the "Laura's a slut" thing, like for me, I always like yelled it, and I always felt like everyone was yelling with me for that particular line. But I wanted to test it this last time, and I was like, I'm just gonna watch the crowd and see how the crowd reacts to it. And of course they did, and it's just like Jessica's a gossip, ah, that's slut yelling. It's just so it's funny that everyone peeks out at that part of the song. Um,
I think now that I think about the song, I think it's because uh the drums change right then and there. And so
mhm.
it's like the lyrics go along with the drums, and so it's a fun
Well,
part to sing. So
yeah, it progresses to it. It's building to that point
mhm.
musically too, like lyrically, because it's like ba-na-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na. Um, so that's why so musically and lyrically, it's kind of peaking there. But it's just funny because the lyric is just funny to yell, and I always think like, is there someone named Laura here? I hope she doesn't feel bad because she's a slut.
What a classic joke. Now, dude, the real importance of that line is that every like 13-year-old who bought the an Emery album at Bereans and
Yeah.
their mom doesn't know that it says the lyric, and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I have music with cuss words in it now."
Yeah, for reals, dude. Like Berean. Well, no, not just that, but like for sure, like that they got away with that in that no one picked up that lyric was in there. You know what I mean? If someone had notified or someone had like picked up on that ahead of time, they wouldn't have released that album from those Christian bookstores.
That reminds me. Did you listen to that podcast episode for BC Pod where they were talking to Under Oath, and they had discussed how the label made them change the lyrics to "They're only chasing safety." What's the name of the song? "Boy Brushed Red," right?
Living in black and white, yeah.
Yeah. So they made them change the lyrics so that way, they wouldn't say a cuss word and they wouldn't get kicked out of like Christian stores
Hmm.
fronts and stuff. I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy because it wasn't even like a real cuss word.
Hmm.
It just said the word whore, which is like, in the Bible like a million times. And so
Yeah.
it's just like so strange. I was like, wow, they're pretty serious about that kind of stuff. And then recently they told that story on BC Pod, how they didn't get signed to Tooth and Nail until they lost weight and started wearing skinny jeans. And
Yeah.
then, so that's funny. Okay, so it was nice having you on, Michael. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. We've been talking for a little over an hour now. So, is there
We're not doing
anything?
questions. What about the people? What the people want to know?
There's no questions. There's nobody. If somebody can post a question by the time that I finish wrapping this up for you, then I'll go ahead and ask you that question. But my last question to you is, where can everybody find you on social media? I have your Twitter up right here. This is like your main social media, but for people who are only going to listen with audio, what's your Twitter? And then what is going on? What is one good thing going on in your life right now?
So I'm on Twitter at mcastillo478. I think that's my Twitter name.
Yeah, it's
I don't.
478. Why those numbers?
Um. Uh. Pretty. when you like first have to come up with a password, and this is like before like really the internet. Well, it wasn't before the internet, but like before it was so. My first password that I had to make was for the library, um, and so it was just kind of on the spot. They were like, "You got to come up with the number." Um, and this is actually the first time I'm mentioning. No one's ever. I don't think anybody's ever heard
Ooh,
about
deep.
this.
Ooh.
It's really not that interesting, and that's probably why I haven't told anybody. But pretty much, pretty much, those were numbers that I had when I was playing baseball. So I had 4, I had 7, I had 8. Um, yeah. So those were different numbers I had when I was growing up playing baseball. So I just used those numbers as like my first library password.
And then
And
they just
so
stuck.
yeah,
That's
and I,
how
well, I just used it for other stuff because I was like not creative about numbers.
that's how most people are. That was how my first emails and stuff were made. So
Hmm.
Jacob has a kind of a pseudo question. He says, Castillo, give us one Vegas activity and we'll do it. And he'll force me to do it, but you only get one.
Well, I would make a suggestion to. Uh, I went to go see the Beatles Love Show, the Circus Soleil. I really enjoyed it, but I think it was like $60, so you're probably not down. If there's like some kind of show, like a Circus Soleil show, or like a magician, or some kind of show like that, my suggestion would be to go see it. Um, Something I would try to make mandatory, um, that's probably less fun, is I would make mandatory for you to go, like, to the Las Vegas pawn shop, the one with, Thanos and freaking Chumlee and
Dude,
whatever
Chumley's
the
not
freak their
there
name is.
anymore, dude. He's in jail or whatever.
It's all it's all a conspiracy, dude.
You
They're
know
trying
what?
to take
You
him
know,
out.
that's a good one. The pawn shop. We'll see about that, but it's gonna be like a huge
I've
long wait.
well, it's already kind of I already know it's kind of a disappointment because there's usually a long line to get, and the guys from Pawn Star don't actually work there.
Yeah, they
They
don't
do
work there.
work there, but they only work there like when they shoot the show pretty much. So, yeah, make that
Um,
mandatory.
uh, Jacob pointed out something that I was thinking. The only Cirque du Soleil show they have in Las Vegas now is called Zoomanity. It's like an
Ooh.
18 plus one because they're like banging on the stage or whatever. And my mom was like, "Do you think this looks interesting?" And I'm like, "No, mom, no, we're not going to see this thing. I'm definitely not going."
Is that Zootopia the musical?
Oh my god. All right, well, like I said, thank you for coming on, Castillo. I'm very glad that we got to talk like this.
No,
And
I didn't get to say my good thing that's
oh yeah,
happened.
what's your one good thing? That is a good point. Sorry.
Dude, it is the weather over here. Okay, technically here in Fillmore it's not super great, but I work in Ventura, and it's instantly like 20 degrees cooler over there, and it's like 40 degrees cooler than the Central Valley. So I know you guys probably have like 102 degrees, probably even right now at 9 p.m. over there.
It's like 80
Um,
degrees right now.
that's still pretty hot for nighttime
Yeah, true, but
because it was like not even 80 degrees in Ventura today.
dude, you've lived here your
Um,
whole life, and then you move once for like less than a week, and you're like, "Hey, my weather's so much better than yours."
yeah, you want to know what's
Okay,
good?
okay,
What's
okay.
good in my life right now is I'm living in an area that's a lot cooler. I'm working in an area that's a lot cooler. Hopefully in the next couple months or so that I'll be able to move over there, where it's right there. It's right there by the beach. The job I'm working at, I do a lot of driving, so I get to see a lot of parts of the city and a parts of different towns in the area because there's like a lot of mountainous areas around here that are actually kind of cool. Um, I wish I was good or into hiking and stuff because There's a lot of natural trails and swimming holes and lakes, in the upper mountains that are really cool. Um, and like I got to go see a show near LA that it didn't take me like 3 to 4 hours to go see, which is
Mhm.
cool. I'm looking forward to being able to go to different venues and different shows in the area. Um, so yeah, I've only been here a few days, but I already like it. The only drawback is that I don't know what good places to eat are yet.
Apparently, there aren't
Um,
any. According to Justice and Philip and Emily, there are no good places.
yeah, but I feel like there has to be people. There has to be somebody that's doing something good food wise around here because it's a bigger town, it's a bigger city. They have a lot of resources around that they could. It seems like they just haven't been here long enough, or they haven't tried the right ones. So I mean, I'll be the judge of that, but
Dude,
we'll see.
since I started driving to
Mhm,
Modesto, I realized Modesto maybe is smaller than Fresno, but it's got a bunch of better food places just like in such a smaller area.
mhm.
I went to that sandwich place and and then I've door dashed with the guy who works there. We've gotten some food from some place. I'm like, wow, this food's like interesting. Today I had a pulled pork with garlic fries. It was kind of expensive. I'm probably not going to get that again, but I was like, man, I can't get this 2 minutes away from my store in Fresno. Like it's awful.
True,
Dude, you're gone now. You can't eat at the gastro place with me anymore.
that's
It's
true.
over.
I'm gonna miss that place, Sakura
I'm gonna
Chaya,
miss that place eating there
Sal's.
once.
Not even like people, just like the
I'm gonna
places
miss
that
the food. I'm gonna miss the theaters. I'm not gonna miss my best friend or my
No,
family.
I'm actually heading back this weekend because I still got to pick that I left at the house. But yeah,
All right. Well, I'm glad everything's going well for you. Um, we'll of course talk soon. We talk all the time, so. But thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking about music and then our both awful taste in movies. So, and I thank you everybody for watching. I'm glad people were tuning in, and I hope Michael here had some information for you. And good night.